Ann Ramirez, currently pursuing my master's degree in business administration, major in hotel and tourism management in the University of Negros Occidental, Recoletos in Bacolod City, Philippines. So before we will start, I would like to introduce you first where I am currently located. So I am from Region 6, Western Visayas in um, most specifically in San Carlos City, Negros Occidental. But the university where I am currently studying my master's degree is located in Bacolod City, in Negros Occidental. As you can see on my screen, it is located on number 51 Lizares Street in Bacolod. So this is what the university looks like in a satellite view. So here are some of the pictures of the university, what our school looks like. And this is our seal, which bears the Latin motto Caritas et Scientia from St. Augustine's theme meaning love and science. This is also what our university looks like, the main building. So this morning, I am here to present my paper entitled The Potential of San Carlos City, Negros Occidental as a Meetings, Incentives, Conventions, and Exhibitions Destination. I would like to thank the organizer and our graduate school dean in providing me with an opportunity to present my paper this morning. So for the background of the study, the Meetings, Incentives, Conventions, and Exhibitions, or MICE tourism, is one of the more rapidly growing market segments in the tourism industry, according to the study of Jones and Lee in 2015. It acquired the acronym MICE, where M is for meetings, which includes all types of professional meeting arrangements, and I is for incentives, to mean organizing of incentive tours or corporate travel. C is for conference or conventions, to cover organizing of comprehensive level type of meetings as conferences and all arrangements, and E is for exhibitions or events, which includes organizing of national and global level of exhibitions on various exhibition grounds. According to the story of Gafara and Ramitasari in 2018, the MICE tourism has also become one of the major industrial markets in some of the ASEAN countries, which includes Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, and even the Philippines. So in the Philippines, the convention and entertainment industry also continue to thrive. Now, the country has established Manila, Cebu, and Davao, and even now currently Iloilo as key MICE destinations. These places not only offer the best of tourism products and services with vast business opportunities, but even have consistently local growing economies, which have attracted investors to build hotel and meeting facilities. So in San Carlos City, although it's a very small city in the Negros Occidental, MICE industry has not yet fully developed. Although San Carlos City has already built their reputation in accommodating small local events, at the same time has also been recognized as the second world's most livable city in 2011 in the Livcom International. Our city was also recognized, so San Carlos City was also recognized as the fourth most lovable city in 2017 by the WWF. And it was also recognized in 2018 as the Asian Clean Tourist City and World Sustainable City, because of our many sustainable practices and how we preserve our natural attractions as well as how we handle our waste. No? And we are also home to the largest solar power plant in the Philippines. Currently, it is named Sakasol. No? So, due to its reputation, I figured it's also best time to establish San Carlos City or to know its potential as a MICE destination, because MICE industry can provide or can generate a lot of opportunities not just for the local government unit but also can provide many opportunities for local businesses and even can attract an influx of tourists. So because of that, no, it is vital, no, or necessary to determine its potential, to know if the city has adequate facilities or services to operate as a MICE destination, which will be open to various tourists and MICE participants anywhere in the Philippines. So the researcher encountered several studies and literature focused on MICE tourism, such as MICE tourism development from the study of Hamid in 2016, internationalization of the MICE industry from the study of Smagina in 2017, and even studies relating to MICE tourism in ASEAN countries like Thailand from the study of Kurt Pitak in 2019, Indonesia from the study of Gafara and Ramitasari in 2018, and even here in the Philippines, which is the study of Dr. Hagisan and Mendoza in 2015, and also the study of Francisco Olfindo, which is entitled An Assessment of Mice Industry in the Philippines, where he studied in 2017. However, there were limited literature on the potential of a city as a mice destination in terms of the 5 A's of tourism, specifically here in San Carlos City, Negros Occidental. So therefore, there's a dearth in the literature which the study would like to fill. So the study has the following objectives. First, the study would like to determined the potential of San Carlos City, Negros Occidental as a MICE destination in terms of the 5 A's of tourism, namely attractions, accessibility, accommodation, amenities, and activities. Second, the study also determined the stakeholders' perceived demands of San Carlos City as a MICE destination in terms of business and trade, educational and scientific, sports and entertainment, and arts and cultural, since the sectors in MICE tourism is broad and does not only cover the business sector. And lastly, the study determined the challenges and opportunities of the city as a MICE destination. So for the framework of the study, again, for us to determine if the city has potential as a MICE destination, it is vital that the 5 A's of tourism, the perceived demands, and the challenges and opportunities are subjected for review and assessment by the respondents, which are the stakeholders and the different tourism key players, which include the events companies in San Carlos City, tour and travel companies, even those who are employed in the city tourism office in the local government unit, and even tourists and associations, which are the potential MICE participants. In order to propose a 3-year MICE tourism development plan for implementation. So the framework or the schematic diagram of the study employed an IPO framework or input process output framework. So again, the tourism industry as a whole survives because of various tourism products and services, and which is why it is also vital for us to determine if a city has the potential as a tourism destination or MICE destination. The key elements of tourism needs to be evaluated, such as the attractions, which includes natural and man-made attractions found in San Carlos City, accessibility, which includes organized transportation services, accessible facilities and services for disabled tourists, and even roads. Next are accommodations, which includes hotels and inns and function rooms, amenities, which includes shopping malls, grocery stores, and other facilities needed by the tourists during their stay. And lastly, activities, which includes cultural and festive events, leisure and recreational activities, pilgrimages, and even award ceremonies. Second, it is also vital to determine the stakeholders' perceived demands in order to provide better tourism services. And again, as what I've mentioned earlier, since the MICE industry is a very broad sector in tourism, so we have also included not just business and trade, but also educational and scientific, which includes different activities and services under that sector, such as museums, galleries, universities, educational trips, conferences, workshops, laboratories, and observatories. We have also included arts and cultural, like festivals, commemorations, religious rites, pilgrimages, arts exhibits, and installations. And lastly, sports and entertainment, which includes stadium and arenas, tournament, outdoor facilities, concert shows, and street performances. Lastly, since we face unprecedented growth in tourism, San Carlos City must be ready to identify their opportunities as a MICE destination and learn how to maximize these opportunities. And it's also vital to determine also their challenges as a MICE destination in order to address these challenges and to better provide services if they are to become a MICE destination. Lastly, the findings of the study will be utilized in the development of a 3-year MICE development plan for San Carlos City. For the design and methodology, the research design utilized a descriptive approach. The research locale is in San Carlos City, Negros Occidental, and the respondents are at least 404 respondents comprising of the different tourism key players, which I also mentioned before, which includes tour and travel companies, events companies in San Carlos City, those who are employed in the city tourism office in our local government unit, tourists, and also associations because they are the potential MICE participants. The instrument is a self-made questionnaire which had undergone a test of validity and test of reliability. For the test of validity, it has garnered, since I've utilized a face value validity, so I've utilized the validity has garnered a result of 4.7, which interprets to very high valid. Under the test of reliability, so I have used Cronbach's alpha to get a score of 0.91, which is interpreted into very high reliability. For the statistical treatment, descriptive analysis through frequency count and percentage distribution is utilized. For the results and discussion, for problem number 1, or the objective number 1, which is the potential of San Carlos City as a MICE destination in terms of the 5 A's of tourism, the results indicate that all of the respondents agreed that the city shows great potential as a MICE destination in terms of the 5 A's of tourism. And the highest A of tourism is attractions, shown in the results. For the second problem, the stakeholders perceive demands of San Carlos City as a MICE destination in terms of business and trade, educational and scientific, sports and entertainment, and arts and cultural. So the findings indicated that from the stakeholders' perceived demands, San Carlos City should offer services and facilities in business and trade, educational and scientific, sports and entertainment, and arts and culture to meet the needs of potential MICE participants. And lastly, for the third problem, challenges and opportunities of San Carlos City as a MICE destination. So based on the findings, it was revealed that the city's number 1 challenge is to have enough convention centers that can cater to at least a minimum of 1,500 delegates. Because, of course, it's quite evident that our city does not have such infrastructure for such number of delegates. And next, for the opportunity, the highest opportunity of San Carlos City as a MICE destination is to promote the city's unique culture and history. Going back to the 5 A's of tourism, the highest A wherein the city shows great potential is attractions, wherein it's one of the highlights of San Carlos City since we practice sustainability in our different natural and man-made attractions or historical attractions. So one of our highlights are our different cultural activities and even our rich historical sites. So for the conclusion of my study, so San Carlos City has shown the potential to become a MICE destination and can efficiently provide services and facilities to potential participants and tourists. Given the findings of the stakeholders' perceived demands and the challenges and opportunities, the development of the facilities and enhancement of tourist services is quite vital in preparation for the city to become a MICE destination. So the LGU, therefore, the LGU and concerned tourism key players should rethink how they will implement and develop quality tourist products and services in order to ensure that the city is ready to become a MICE destination, in order to also encourage the influx of MICE participants and achieve tourist satisfaction. Budget for the development will also take a great deal of discussion for the LGU of San Carlos City should they consider to implement the MICE Tourism Development Plan. For the recommendations, it is highly recommended to the LGU that they may use the findings to design an enhanced MICE tourism development plan for implementation. I have seen a sample of their tourism development plan, and the MICE sector is not yet fully explored. So hopefully, from the findings of this study, that part of the tourism development plan can be enhanced. Next is the tour and travel operators need to develop and organize trips that highlight the different attractions and best features of the city to encourage potential MICE participants to explore San Carlos City. And the events companies and other tourism key players in the city are encouraged to attend appropriate training and orientation on handling MICE activities and events to understand their role and function in MICE tourism. And lastly, I would like also to add that since when I made this research paper, I did not really expect that there would be a pandemic, so I only focus on the physical parts of mice industry. But I would also like to recommend to the future researchers, most especially those who are writing in the time of the pandemic, that they can also make a research paper focusing on mice, but more on how the mice industry can turn crisis into opportunities during the pandemic, where they can also thrive in disruptions and take advantage of digital platforms. Since right now, the new norm of conferences such as this one are hybrid now, wherein we have live events and also virtual events such as this. So these are the following references that I have utilized. I only took 10. Some of them focus on mice. These are recent studies. So on behalf of the University of Negros Occidental Recoletos, in our language, daghang salamat or madamo nga salamat. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Ma'am Saibel Ann, for the wonderful presentation. Now I'll give the time to our judges for the open forum.
Okay, maybe I can start the ball rolling. Um, I'd like to ask Ma'am
Yes po, Doc.
Cyril,
Good morning, Doc.
Cybele, okay. What was the participation of the tourism office in the study?
For
The tourism office of the local and regional, because they are the direct beneficiaries of the results of the study.
first and foremost, Doc Japos, no, when I first initiated my study, they were quite generous enough to provide me with secondary data such as the tourism development plan and even some of the benchmarks that they had, no, like for example, they considered Iloilo as their benchmark for MICE tourism. There were some ideas there that were quite helpful in, especially in my literature, and also they have also provided me help when it comes to gathering data since I did my online survey during the time of the pandemic. It was really quite difficult to reach out to my respondents, and I also coordinated with them to help me reach out to these following respondents, most especially associations and tourists. So all throughout my research journey, they were really quite helpful in providing me with both secondary data, and they also helped coordinated with me when it comes to also in my data gathering.
Very good. You've done it right. That the end users of the data should be actively involved in the research process. Thank you
Thank you,
so much
Doc.
for that. Now, I'd like to call in Dr. Ruben Garcia if you have a question to the other two researchers. We had a study, we had two studies more.
And
Yes,
about
sir.
tourism.
Doc, sorry, Doc.
All right. Okay. Taking into consideration that tourism is a great asset for any place you live in, and you had a good presentation and the information about the research. So tell me something that you imagine you can provide in the future. That's something that you didn't mention on your presentation. That you can provide in the future that can be the best asset ever in tourism, and San Carlos City?
I think our ability to provide hybrid events, knowing that the world is uncertain, like the pandemic. When I first conducted my study, I did not really imagine that the tourism industry would be greatly affected. Most especially the conventions industry, but you were still able to thrive, and I do hope that in the future, San Carlos City has that ability to cater to hybrid or blended events wherein we can both host live events, and we can also, although I've already mentioned this earlier, but I think what we need now is flexibility, no, knowing how to adapt to certain things that we are quite uncertain of. So I do not know what will the future bring, as long as I want our city to be really prepared, both in hosting live events or live conventions, and also in hosting virtual conventions, knowing that in our city technology is really not that quite developed yet. So I do hope that would be an aspect that we can also be quite proud of, or we can highlight in our city in the future.
From UNOR.
Yes, Doc.
Miss Adil, um, what support have been given by the local government of San Carlos City in terms of MICE
Um,
tourism?
there were actually
Not on the paper that you're doing, but the present or the existing uh, local government support to encourage MICE
Actually,
tourism.
Doc, they were really quite supportive of my idea at first when I first came to their office and introduced my study, because I was asking for help when it comes to secondary data and also data collection. And they mentioned that um,
Mm-mm.
San Carlos City has been visited by numerous tourists, not just in Negros Occidental, but even in other places in the Philippines. And they've noticed that we only have a very few convention centers, and they would really like to improve on that part, because they were hoping to increase the influx of tourists and to highlight San Carlos City more, knowing that its potential in terms of sustainability is really quite great. We've been recognized internationally, and they've been quite open. Actually, Doc, no, when it comes, they told me nga hopefully we can see the output of your study, like your 3-year MICE development plan, so that we can improve
Yes.
our tourism development plan here in the city. And the mayor is also really quite supportive, because when I also sent a letter to him, because I asked a permission to gather data in the LGU as well, and he was really quite open, because before the pandemic, our tourism sector was our bread and our lifeblood. So I
Mm,
was really quite happy at first,
okay.
because I was hearing a lot of negative feedbacks during the process of my study, because they told me nga it's the pandemic, your research is not relevant anymore because the tourism sector is down. But knowing that the LGU is still supportive, because
Yeah.
they believe that there is still hope that we can recover, and even
Yes.
after the pandemic, they
Yes.
told me nga anyway this study can provide a lot of opportunities after the pandemic. Hopefully, a lot of jobs will be opened and local businesses will thrive. So we are hopeful, no, that this will end.
Yeah. Yes. And to focus more on
Yes, yes, Doc.
mice.
Yes.
Yes.
Focus more on mice tourism. That's
Thank you,
good.
Doc.
Thank you.
Okay, and the last question now will be asked by Dr.